Hi everybody, welcome, and we'll get going at 7 o'clock as usual. Hi everybody and welcome to StashBlaster Quilts. My name's Maria Spatelnik and I'm here to help you make more quilts in less time with less stress. So, this has been an interesting couple of weeks. Don't I always wind up saying that at the beginning? But I was prepping to be speaking at a conference, which I did do. Hold on one second here. Did I turn that off or did I turn it all the way up? I turned it all the way up. And so that took a bunch of extra time out of the last couple of weeks. And then I was well, it wasn't a conference. I was teaching in Kansas City, Missouri. And so I was there. I taught the same class 2 days back to back at their Mark Center. And I had a great time. I'm going to tell you all about it. But if this is your first time here, welcome. I am a professional organizer, so I start with a tip. And I don't have technically one today. However, I have had several people since the last time I did this, and I took down my design walls, ask me about how I organize my fabric. There's so many different ways, and the best way to do it is the way you will look for your fabric. So, I personally have no problem combining batiks and 30s, different designers, different eras, as long as they're in the right color. And then, of course, light, dark, etc. So since I don't care, I stack them by color. So if you look here, these are all orange. These are all red. Then we go to brown. Okay? I've got cream and then white and black, etc. So I do mine by color. And I don't care what's in it. However, if you like to make sure you do all 30s fabric, in a quilt, then group your 30s together. You can then subdivide by color if you'd like. But put all your 30s together. If you like to keep your batiks separate, that's fine. Have a batik section and you can organize that by color if you would choose to. There are some people who prefer to do it by designer, so they may have a section that's all just cave fabric. Whatever works for you when you are looking for a fabric is the right way to do it. There is no outside imposition of methods that's going to be better for you than how you hunt for your fabrics. I just do it by color, so mine's all by color. On this wall, I'm sorry, I have been gone, and so my computer's yelling at me about stuff. I have fat quarters, regular quarters, and above. As long as I have that, it goes on the wall behind me. So I consider this yardage, even though I do have fat quarters there. I apologize. Let me see if I can make this shut up. Okay. So that's what's behind me here. And then anything that I've subcut is on the wall behind where you're sitting right now. So that's how I divide it, so that when I'm looking for something, if I only need a little bitty piece, I go behind there. If I need at least a good solid quarter yard or fat quarter, then it's on this wall. But it's all by color here. In my drawers of the smaller subcut stuff, it's just by size. I don't care about color, because I'll pull out a bunch of them all at once and I'll be doing stuff with them. So you could also do those by color if you chose, but it's up to you and what works for how you like to quilt. Another thing I got several questions on after the last episode, I guess we'll call it an episode? I don't know what you call it, prior live stream. So let's call it an episode. Were questions about my design wall, because all you usually see is a piece like this. Okay, except in my case it goes floor to ceiling. I did make mine too big, because mine are within 1/4 of an inch of the ceiling, which makes maneuvering it difficult to do. So I should have taken like another inch off, and it would have been a lot easier. But what this is this is insulation foam, like you put behind siding. It comes in a 5x8 sheet, 5 feet by 8 foot sheet, and I cut it down so that my sections would be approximately the same width. I could have done 3 giant ones and a skinny, that's fine, but my goal was to cover all of my fabric wall with this so that A, I had a giant design wall, which was nice, and B, it blocks light from touching the fabric, so it's going to keep it from fading due to ultraviolet. So this is what I was going to start with. And then I thought about when I have light colored creams, etc., or if I wanted to do a very light colored quilt, I might not be able to see all the same contrasts here as I'd like. So I also did a medium gray. Now it doesn't show up as well in this lighting. It is much more medium than it looks right now. So what I did is I took a board of each, I wrapped it in flannel, because this is flannel, and then I glued the two together. What's really neat about this, and I can't really show you on the camera, but this will stand on its own. Now I did make tie backs. That's what these are. Okay? They're little pieces of Formica for when you're choosing a counter color. I used to have a job where I had samples, so that's what this is. Put a piece of batting on it, wrapped it in either the gray, which is that one, or the cream color, so that when I put the two panels next to each other, I could pull that tie back through, and it just presses against it lightly, which then allows it to blend in a little bit, but it holds them up. So as I'm moving things, I don't have to worry about them flopping over. So that's my design wall. It's thick enough that I can put a pin all the way through it and not have it come out the other side. That's what I like. I like the fact that it's flannel, so the things that are higher I tend to not even pin. But if it's where I'm walking, because there's not a lot of room between the back of my chair and the design wall, I tend to knock things down, so I will stick a pin or two in. But that's my design wall, and it's super light. I think that fully covered in flannel, each one still weighs less than 10 pounds. And they are, like I said, floor to ceiling and like 40 inches wide, maybe even bigger. So it's really lightweight, it's very sturdy, it's stable to stand on its own, and it's just wonderful to have the two different colors to make it reversible. You could, of course, have one piece of foam and one color on one half and one on the other, because this edge, as long as it's glued down well, it doesn't have to be pretty. I just did it neat because that's how I wanted to do it. So that's up to you. But that's how I did my design wall. So I know it's a little unusual. I'm not a big fan of the roll down ones, you know, like a blind, because sometimes your pieces can curve, having been rolled up in it, and they don't always lay flat again later, or when you pull it down, that bottom edge will start to separate and then it floats away. And so I'm not a huge fan, but it is also an option. There's many different kinds of design walls out there. This is just what I built for myself. So that's that. So before I left last time, just to catch you up, I was processing fabric and I was talking to you about that. So I did get all of this processed and all of this processed. And so it just hasn't hit the design wall yet. There was probably another stack equal to this blue, but I put things away and then I went, oh, nerds, I should have left it out. But I didn't, so there you go. It's a bad habit of mine that I bring the stuff in and I just want to pop it right up onto the wall. So yeah, you're not always going to see everything, but all I can do is try. So then I went on my trip, and I took Scott with me, and we went to Kansas City, Missouri, where I was teaching about hoarding. I am a professional organizer by trade, like I said, but one of my specialties is severe clutter and hoarding. And so I talk about it all over the country, and in fact I've been out of the country to talk about it too, which is cool. So I was doing the trainings, and while the people were amazing, it was the Mid-Atlantic Regional Council. They were great, but there was a lot of miscommunications on this one. So I thought there were going to be 100 students. There was closer to 50. I thought it was a half day, which is what I quoted them, which is 4 hours. And that's what it said in the description. But then I noticed the week before they only booked me for 3 hours each day. And then we had a bunch of issues, which is small little things. But all in all, it was a wonderful time. I met some wonderful people. And it was a wide variety. So there were therapists in the class. There were peer support people. There were people that work with the homeless or unhomed, which is the new term for that. There were specialists that deal with drug abuse and that kind of thing, so that was cool. But overall, it was a good time. We stayed in a pretty nice hotel, and it wasn't that far away. This was my first massive Uber experience. I tend to go for taxis, but getting them was difficult. Where we were, getting them in from the airport, so I had to have the app anyway. So I went with Uber, and we Ubered everywhere because all of the costs of our Ubering were going to be like 2 out of 4 days rental on the car. So, because there was the rental, but there was also, you had to pay to park. So I was like, it's just not worth it. So we did it, and it worked amazingly well, far better than I ever thought it would. So we not only saved money, but they were usually to us in under 5 minutes, so I really can't argue. But Kansas City is apparently really big on Uber and Lyft and those kinds of things versus taxis. So it was good to do. In September, I'm going to be going to Seattle, and that's probably what I'm going to do there too. At least there's a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, and they didn't have that here in Kansas City. So it cost us quite a bit to get from the hotel, from the airport to the hotel and back. But it costs even more here with the taxi for a shorter distance, so I can't complain too much. And every single one of those guys that drove us was nice and polite, and the car was clean. Oh yeah. The taxi that we came home in was pretty gnarly in terms of cleanliness. So yeah, I think I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna stop doing taxis. But anyway, so I did take Scott on this one with me, which does have its pluses and minuses. But one of the major pluses, and it sounds like a silly thing, is I loved the fact that I could leave him with the luggage and I could go to the ladies' room with just me. I forget sometimes with how much traveling I wind up doing by myself, how nice that is. But, of course, having another person to track and be doing things and make sure you pack for and stuff like that. So it was, there, like I said, there are a couple of minuses, but nothing that counted. However, today, we came home today. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this live stream from my laptop, so I warned you guys about that. But I was not only able to get home in time, but I was able to get home on time, so that's why I'm doing it here from my sewing studio. I won't be able to do that next month, but it worked out. Although we flew from Kansas City to O'Hare, and that was fine. I had to be there for a 7 a.m. flight, so I got there at 5, all that. Didn't get a chance to eat, so we ate the snacks on the plane, which were basically popcorn. Then we got off in Chicago. We actually got sandwiches, which is good because I checked first, and it was another snack flight. So it's like, ugh. So we got some breakfast croissants that were great in Chicago, and it was Brewers, and it was a really great group of guys behind the thing. They were only doing breakfast, but they had 6 omelets going at all times. So you place your order, they would, build the croissant or the bagel or the whatever you wanted, and at that point, the next omelet was ready to get plopped in from the one that he'd started cooking before. So they just kept moving the pans down like an assembly line, and so they just constantly had the eggs ready to go for the next sandwich. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Now we're standing and we're waiting because Scott uses a wheelchair in airports. He doesn't have to in general, but definitely in airports. He can't walk the distance. Because of that, we were there. We get priority boarding and all that. And we were waiting to board, and they were short a stewardess, a steward, a flight attendant, whatever you want to call them. And apparently the lady had been in the building since 7 a.m. It's now 1:30 or 2 o'clock local time. And they couldn't find her. And so they're calling around, and it's getting later and later, and people are getting more and more irritated. And there was another flight attendant standing right next to me. But it wasn't her that was late. She was just supposed to be catching a ride back here to Dulles. So she volunteered to help, but then there was problems with, I guess, overtime or something. I don't know. So she wasn't allowed to help. They told us that there are flight attendants who wait in a room downstairs in 6-hour increments just in case somebody doesn't show. But they don't get paid for anything until the airplane is in the air. So once it takes off, that's when their clock starts and they start getting paid. And when it touches down, they don't get paid anymore. So all those nice little services that they do for us, bringing us a cup of water, giving us an extender for the seat belts, going through the safety drills, helping you put your luggage up, all that they don't get paid for. They do that to help you because it's the right thing to do. They don't make a dime on that. So the fact that there are people that sit around for 6 hours on the off chance that somebody doesn't show up for their shift, I just found amazing. And I thought that was such a nice thing to do. Now, of course, it means that they would get paid. And, of course, they'd have to take a plane back home or wherever it is after they got to where they were going. So it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So congratulations and thank you to the flight attendants on your local airplane. In this particular case, I was flying United, but I understand that those rules are the same regardless of airline here in the U.S. I thought that they got paid now from when people started getting on the plane, but apparently not. So, there you go. So we get in, we land in Dulles. Now, I packed Scott and I with 2 of the roller cases, that go in the overhead compartment, and 2 personal bags, so we didn't have to check anything. That's a big thing for me. If I can avoid checking luggage, I do. So he has his wheelchair, and the person's pushing him, and she's this little tiny thing. And every time they had to go down a ramp, she would try very hard and lean back to try to slow it down, and then at some point he would take off, and she would still be trying to slow him down, but she would wind up like jogging down the hill with him, which is the funniest thing. So we were approaching the doors at the bottom of a long ramp that once you go through those doors, you can't return. And there was somebody there holding the door open, and it looked like they were playing 10 pins and that Scott was the bowling ball that was going down the ramp. And so I was trying not to laugh because there's, he has no control at all in this situation. And this poor little girl's trying to do this. There was water on the floor that I didn't see. And I slipped. But when I slipped, since I was heading downhill, it was I had put down my right foot. And I was moving my left when my right foot slid backwards. So I crashed down on my right knee and my right elbow, and then I went backwards slightly, this part of my hand. And then I hit my elbow, and my suitcase went flying halfway across the ramp down to the bottom and just spun a little bit. So that was kind of funny, too, in retrospect. But I have been sitting here with this ice pack that straps onto my leg. I was waiting to start this. It's my 3rd go-round since I got home. And my hand hurts enough I couldn't lift my sewing machine. So, Gerald, you always want to know what I'm doing before I start because you can hear it. I was attempting to do some ironing left-handed because this is my right's the one that hurt. Excuse me, I'm dry. I didn't drink nearly enough the whole trip, and I can tell. So I fell. They offered to get me an ambulance. I said no, and I hobbled my way to the taxi. And it was a real taxi coming home. That's the one where I was saying, no, from now on I'm doing Uber. And I put my knee up, and then my back started to hurt. So I called my chiropractor, and Scott took me up there, and I got adjusted. I feel better. Of course, the ibuprofen I've been popping like candy probably isn't hurting in the feel better department. But I don't think anything's broken. I think I'm just banged up. So I'm going to sleep tonight in my recliner because that's downstairs and I can change ice all night and not disturb Scott because there's no refrigerators on this level. We used to have a small a dorm cube that had Coca-Cola in it in our house in Buffalo in our bedroom, which was really handy. But we don't have that anymore. And I'm not going to go up and down the stairs in the middle of the night when my knee's screaming. So I'm going to take down my clothes for tomorrow because I have to leave for a client's house at 7 in the morning. And I'm going to hope that my knee works so I can drive myself rather than having to have Scott drive me. And we'll see how it goes. That's all we can do is we can see how it goes. But I was icing my hand. I was icing my knee. And then I came, after dinner, Scott ordered us Asian food. So we had that for dinner. And when I'm done here, I'm going to go grab my clothes for tomorrow and take them downstairs and hope that all goes well tonight. I'm not unpacking anything. I'm not going to the basement to do laundry. I'm not doing a lot of stuff tonight. But I did want to make sure I made it up here to see you. Tonight is going to be short because I don't have a lot to share. And I can't sew, so I can't, do any of the houses or anything for the wedding. Before we left, we did have my daughter-in-law's sister come on over, and I explained to her what the wedding quilt is because I'm getting her help. I know my son's favorite Pikachu. I know one or two of his brides, but I know that there's a lot more that they like than that, so I asked her to gather me a list because what I think I'm going to do is quilt the different Pokemon use the different Pokemon as my quilting design on the quilt, especially on the border pieces, because I'll probably do them in different colors. And so I need time to get them scaled. I have to find them online. Then I have to scale them to size. Then I have to find some way of connecting them so that I'm not doing too much stop and start on the quilting. So, yeah. This should be fun. So she came over to play games because the kids were out of state. And so it was really nice. And she seemed to think it was a good idea. She seemed a little overwhelmed, so maybe she didn't like it. But that's what they're getting. So I hope that they like it. But overall, it's been a nice couple of weeks. Now, I will be here the first Wednesday of the month, which is the 3rd. But, oops, wrong click. I want to double check the date here. I will not be here on the 17th. So I will be attempting to do this live stream from Atlanta. If I get started on that day and don't make it, you'll just have to forgive me, but I am going to give it a good shot. I think I've got the hardware stuff figured out. But the computer that I was going to use is getting flaky. So Scott is trying to put together and cobble together a different computer for me to take, which then means reinstalling stuff and, again, hoping for the best. So, I've got a month. I've got 1 month basically from today to see if we can get that all working. But I actually have to leave well before that So we basically have 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, before it's got to be up and working. So it's going to be what it's going to be. I am going to hopefully be taking some quilting with me, but because of the thumb issues I've been having, and now the fall, every time I move the thumb, it hurts anyway, right through here. But now that this is all swollen as well, it's not swollen badly because I iced it right away. Even less movement hurts even more. So I'm hoping that goes away overnight as well with enough icing. And then we'll go from there. But challenges abound, let's put it that way. And that's okay. You know, I like living my boring life, but you have to have some excitement and drama sometimes so that you can appreciate your boring life. And I'm okay with having one. But anywho, so I am going to continue to work on the wedding quilt. I am going to continue to do whatever handwork I can do. So that's what I'm going to take with me. Probably not for the first leg of the trip, but probably for the second and third legs, because I'm hoping to get enough rest and have had a chance for everything to heal, that I'll be able to do some more hand sewing at that point. So you'll be filled all in on it. I am going to be, taking that trip all by myself this time. I'm leaving Scott behind as I head out to Seattle in September, but that's okay. I've done it a bunch of times. I can do it again. I try to get better at it every time in terms of what I'm packing, how I'm packing it, and can I possibly not check a bag. And we'll have to see how it goes. But I don't think that's going to happen this time just because I have 3 conventions over 2 weeks and there's no way to pack enough clothes for that without having a checked bag. But I may ship some stuff other places instead of having it go with me on the trip. So we'll see. Anyway, I don't have much to say today. I apologize, but there hasn't been much done in the quilting world for me in the last couple of weeks. I'm hoping that there will be more, but every time I take any sort of a vacation or a break or I'm gone out of state for training, we wind up with the situation where I have to do more work before I go. So there's less time to sew, and then I have to catch up after I get back. So I'm not really sure how much is going to happen this month. But I will at least check in every couple of weeks and let you know what's doing, even if it hasn't been much. So it is a short one today. I hope that you are all doing well. I have to remember not to clap my hands together this way when I do that. I have to do it this way. But I hope that everything is going well and that you are enjoying your sewing. And if you've got any questions, remember you can email me at mail, M-A-I-L, at StashBlasterQuilts.com. And I'll answer your questions like I did about the design walls. You can also leave comments on the chat, or comments to the video, and I will happily answer those as well. And it doesn't have to be about sewing organization, it can be about anything. Alright? So have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I'll check in with you. I believe it's the 3rd. Hold on. Yes, it's the 3rd. So, the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of every month, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, here. See you then. Bye-bye.